It turns out that we use more used coffee grounds in our garden than I thought. Though we've been using them for years, I've never done the simple math to estimate how much we use over the course of a year, and my previous guesstimates were much too low. We typically pick up grounds from the coffee shop once per week from April through November, which is roughly 32 weeks, and this 6-gallon bucket is fairly typical for a 1-week haul. There are 43 pounds of grounds in the bucket, but for the purpose of our estimate, we'll say I collect 40 pounds per week. 40 pounds times 32 weeks is 1,280 pounds of grounds, much more than I thought. After estimating the total weight, I started to wonder how much nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium we're adding to the garden each year in the form of coffee grounds. I've seen different NPK values for used grounds, but 2, 0.3, 0.3 should be about right. The N value of 2 means that 2% of coffee grounds is nitrogen. 2% of 1,280 is 25.6. 25.6 pounds of nitrogen is a pretty good amount. I know I never added that much nitrogen to the garden back when I was using store-bought fertilizers. You'd have to buy 256 pounds of a 10-10-10 fertilizer to get that much nitrogen. Of course, the nitrogen in coffee grounds isn't immediately plant available, but it will become available over time as it's broken down. Now let's look at phosphorus and potassium, which are plant available in coffee grounds. An NPK of 2, 0.3, 0.3 means that 0.3% of the grounds is phosphorus, and 0.3% is potassium. 0.3% of 1,280 is 3.84. Again, 3.84 pounds is a good amount. You'd have to buy a 38.4 pound bag of a 10-10-10 fertilizer to get that much phosphorus and potassium. I don't think I ever bought that much fertilizer for our garden in 1 year. Now to give you an idea of how what we're doing would translate to your garden. We have 580 square feet dedicated to food crops. Adding 1,280 pounds of grounds to 580 square feet means we had 2.2 pounds of grounds per square foot each year. That's 7/10 of an ounce of nitrogen and 1/10 of an ounce of both phosphorus and potassium per square foot. Of course, the grounds aren't all added directly to the garden. We add about 60% of our grounds to our compost piles. This spring, we've already filled up 3 compost bins with mostly autumn leaves and used coffee grounds. Another 30% of the grounds are added to our worm bins, and roughly 10% is added directly to the garden as mulch. Now, I should point out before closing that these numbers do reflect a time when we've been expanding the garden and adding new raised beds. Once all the new raised beds are built and filled with homemade compost, we'll probably cut back a bit. But used coffee grounds will remain an important part of our efforts to increase soil fertility. So I'm not suggesting you have to use hundreds or thousands of pounds of coffee grounds to have a great garden. We use them because they're free and very plentiful in our area. But I do hope this video will encourage you to try coffee grounds in your garden if you haven't already. They'll improve your soil fertility, lower your costs, and you'll be keeping a valuable resource out of landfills. Well, that's all for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, remember, you can change the world 1 yard at a time.